Good morning, everybody. Time for another episode of our free agency primer for the Seahawks, and we're going to continue to attack the positions of significant need for the Seahawks. Next up on the list is center, and this is a pretty big one because we had the opportunity to address center last year. We kind of didn't, and it didn't go great. I will say that I think Ethan Posick played okay after he got the starting job back, second half of the year. And I want to bring back Posick as a backup. I think he would be a great backup to have. I think he can play in space okay. I think he acquitted himself admirably after taking the job back from Kyle Fuller. And I don't hate having him around, but you need more. You need to do better this time. This is one of the areas of this offensive line that you've got a real great opportunity to improve on this offseason. It's going to be difficult to improve at right tackle because there aren't really a lot of options out there, and you're still trying to feel out what you have with Jay Curhan. The guard spots are a little tough to get upgrades on from the outside because you're kind of sort of married to Gabe Jackson and Damian Lewis for the moment. So it's all about that left tackle and center spot. So today we're going to do center. And the free agency market for center this year is pretty good. There are definitely some names that I would be cool with getting. There are a few guys who I think would fit in well with the Shane Waldron and now Andy Dickerson offense. And there are a few guys who I think would be good, but I don't know about the fit so much. But we have to have a mental priority here. We need to get somebody who's good. Bottom line, period. We need to get somebody better than Posick. And then once we get somebody good, then we can start asking questions like, okay, is he going to be a great scheme fit? Because at the end of the day, we just need somebody who can protect Wilson and open up holes in the running game. The style part is important as well, but we kind of played that game last year when we didn't draft the center that went to Kansas City and made the All-Pro team. I can't remember his damn name, but you guys know who I'm talking about. And while I defended the decision at the time because I didn't think that he was going to be a scheme fit, it made us look a little stupid when we were starting Kyle Fuller midway through the season at center, and he was making the All-Pro team. So, got to get somebody actually adequate at center this year. And there are some good options. I would not be surprised if this team decided to hit free agency to find that center. Let's take a look. All right, so the first guy we're going to take a look at here is my prize pig of this center class, Jason Kelce. And I know what people are going to say. Don't worry, I'll address it, but I don't really care about all that because we're living in a fantasy world right now. We'll deal with reality when free agency actually starts. Bottom line is this: Jason Kelce is one of the best centers in the league still, and he is a perfect scheme fit. He might be the greatest space center in blocking in space in NFL history. He plays in a way that other centers, it's almost inconceivable for other centers to even try to play the way Jason Kelce plays. Perfect scheme fit for what we do in this offense. If you look at some of the stuff they do in that Rams offense with Goff and now Stafford with their centers, Kelce could probably do it better than any of them. Now, he's old. He's going to be 35 next year, so age is a concern, but I think he's got one more good year left. If you take a look at his PFF grade from 2021, he only allowed one sack over almost 1,000 snaps, and his PFF grade was excellent, 84.4. Yeah, a year before that, it was also pretty good, almost a 70, almost over 1,100 snaps, 4 sacks. So this is a guy who has consistently been anywhere from good to elite over the last several years. He's allowed very few sacks over the last 3 years. He's played in almost every game. Injuries are not a big concern for him yet, I don't think. So this guy is pretty much perfect for the kind of thing that we need at center. Now, the other issue with Kelce is it seems like he has a lot of loyalty to the Eagles. And some people believe that if the Eagles don't bring him back, he will retire. We'll deal with that when it happens. But for now, he's my number one guy simply because he's a perfect scheme fit and I believe he has good years left. Now, Kelce's last contract with the Eagles was 1 year, 9 million. He's a year older now, so he'll probably come down a little bit. You might have to equal that contract in order to get him out of Philadelphia. I don't know how far his devotion to that franchise runs, but I say 1 year, 7 million for Kelce, maybe 1 year, 8 million, and you could maybe pack a void year in there as well to make the cap hit a little more palatable. But sign me up, man. Jason Kelce would transform this offense. He does things in ways that other centers can only dream. And I believe that he has a couple good years left in the NFL. And I would love to make him a centerpiece of the revamped offense around the Shane Waldron and Andy Dickerson scheme. So that's my number one. Number two would probably be the guy who is going to set the market, which is why I have a little bit of a reservation here, Ryan Jensen. This is probably going to be the guy who gets the shoot, not Bulaga, the center from the Packers who signed with the Chargers. God, I'm so bad with names today. Forgive me, but Ryan Jensen is probably the guy who's going to get that monster contract because he's high profile. He's going to be 31 next year, so age is not a big concern yet. He already made significant money on his last deal with the Buccaneers, and he was part of the Super Bowl champs 2 years ago. He was part of that stacked offense in Tampa Bay with Brady and Gronk and Evans. Jensen was a key part of that. PFF gave him a grade of 70.3 last year. He played a lot of snaps, only allowed 2 sacks, so really good player. Really solid stuff. 2020, his grade was not quite so good, but still pretty good, 65.8. Played over 1,000 snaps, allowed 4 sacks. So this is a guy who has generally been anywhere from good to elite. Like 2019 with Winston, he was almost an 80. So Ryan Jensen's a very good center. Now, he's not a great scheme fit for what I think we're going to want to do with our interior offensive linemen, but if Ryan Jensen is there for you to get at a reasonable price, you might just have to say we're going to have to try to find a way to make it work because he's really good. Let's modify the offense a little bit. Let's modify the play calling a little bit to try to accommodate that. Because if we put Jensen in the right spots, in the right situations, he can be great. Now, Spotrac thinks he's getting $10 million a year, but this is basically what they thought that the former Packers center who went to the Chargers would get last year, and they were not close. He got double that. So it would not shock me if Ryan Jensen ended up getting like 3 years 50 million or 3 years 55 million. Maybe even he'll get the 3 years 60 million that the market setter got last year. So Ryan Jensen might be out of our price range unless we're really willing to push it. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. This is the offseason to push it. I don't know if Jensen's the guy to push it for, but he's good. And if for some reason Spotrac gets this right and he does really go for 3 years, 30 million, I think that's a steal. I think this guy's better than that. So if for some reason he only goes for 10 mil a year, I would definitely jump all over that. So Ryan Jensen, he's certainly on the list. He's good enough to be worthy of consideration, but there are some red flags there. The price is going to be massive in all likelihood, and the scheme fit is not really there right now. Okay, next up we have Ben Jones from the Titans. And the Titans are in a little bit of a salary cap, we're not going to call it salary cap hell, but we're going to call it salary cap purgatory. And they've got some guys they need to spend to retain. So Ben Jones is probably going to be on the way out. Now, he's another guy who is kind of in the same boat as Ryan Jensen for me, where he's good. Like, Ben Jones has definitely been good. This year, his PFF grade was almost 78. He only allowed 1 sack, played a ton of snaps. Year before that, 79. Didn't allow any sacks in over 1,000 snaps. 2019, 77. Allowed 4 sacks, over 900 snaps. Like, this guy's really good. Don't know about the scheme fit. This is a guy who has excelled in that Titans offense that has mostly been built around Derrick Henry and a lot of play action. Now, don't get me wrong, I hope that the Seahawks do a lot of play action in 2022, but I don't know if we're going to have that Derrick Henry type of offense. In fact, I kind of doubt it. Not only do we not have a Derrick Henry, I don't think that's really what we're going for here. So Ben Jones is, to me, kind of like Ryan Jensen, where he's probably going to cost a lot of money. And for a guy who is not a scheme fit, do you want to break the bank? Like, Ben Jones might be 3 years, 50 million. Whatever Ryan Jensen gets, Ben Jones will probably get a little bit less. He's a little bit older and he doesn't have quite the reputation, but Ben Jones should be getting some money. And I don't know if you want to break the bank for a dude who isn't a scheme fit, but he is really good and he's on the list certainly. This next guy I want to talk about here is somebody who's kind of sort of come out of nowhere here, Brian Allen of the Rams. Since we've poached a couple coaches from the Rams and a player from the Rams over the last year, maybe we'll end up poaching a center from them as well. Brian Allen played a lot for the Rams this year at center, 900 snaps, posted a very strong PFF grade, over 80, did allow quite a few sacks, almost the most in the league among centers, but in terms of a scheme fit, he's playing in that McVay offense, and the Waldron offense is an offshoot of that McVay offense, and he did very well in it, and they won the Super Bowl, so do the math. Brian Allen, he makes sense. Now, doesn't really have too much of a history behind a 2021, so you are definitely betting on the contract year player. I don't even think he had any significant playing time before 2021, but this is a very viable option as well. Spotrac actually has a estimated contract for him. They say 5 years, 27 million, so $5.5 million a year. Yeah, I'll do that. If this guy is as good as he was last year, 5.4 million a year, sign me up for that. Okay, so we've got one more guy here. He's actually not listed here, but he's another guy from the Rams. Austin Corbett. This is a guy who moved from center to guard this last season so Brian Allen could play center. But Austin Corbett has played some center before. PFR still lists him as a center, and I'm not too concerned about his ability to play center. So he played really well in 2021 at guard, over 1,000 snaps, only 3 sacks allowed, 68.8 PFF grade, and he was a pretty good center for the Rams in prior years. And I think he would be an okay scheme fit. Obviously, he's playing in that Rams offense. He's a little bigger than you would like. He's over 305 pounds, but he's got a good 40 time. He's got good speed. He's got good draft pedigree. He was a early second-round pick in 2018. So I think that Austin Corbett would make sense to be a center to keep an eye on, even though he's going to be listed as a guard for the time being because that's where he was for the Rams this year. But at the risk of pulling another Ethan Posick, I think Corbett could move to center and still play a pretty high level of football. Spotrac also has an estimated deal for him. They say 4 years, 35 million, which, I mean, that's not cheap. But when you take a look at a guy like if Ryan Jensen and Ben Jones are getting 15, 17, 20 million a year, then 8.7 for an Austin Corbett who can be a quality starter for you. That's pretty reasonable. And he's only 26. He's going to turn 27 before the season starts. Still pretty young. He could be your guy for the rest of Wilson's career here potentially. Yeah, I like the Austin Corbett idea. He's kind of a forgotten man because he moved to guard, I think. But he's definitely on the table. And the last guy we're going to take a look at here is currently under contract, but that may change soon. It's Mitch Morse from the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills may have to let Mitch Morse go because the Josh Allen contract is about to kick in. Mitch Morse is a guy who doesn't have the greatest PFF scores, but he's generally well respected around the league. He's got a good 40 time for a center, good draft pedigree as well. He was a second-round pick. He's about to turn 30, so age is not a huge problem yet. Played almost 1,200 snaps last year, had a PFF grade that was kind of middling, and as you go back through his history, you'll find mostly middling PFF grades, which doesn't cast him in the best light. But I believe this guy's a good player. That Buffalo offense is a little... They're probably the most pass-happy offense in the league. I think they still are. So I think that kind of stuff throws off centers a little bit because a lot of those guys make their grades on just their ability to consistently run block, and the Bills, that's not really them. So if Mitchell Morse gets cut or traded or whatever, I think you're probably going to have to extend him. He's probably going to be wanting something like 10 to 12 million a year, but I think that would be okay. I think I would be all right with that. So you would have a center for hopefully the next 3 years who's really good, and you've got that position nailed down. You might have to give up an asset to trade for him because Buffalo may end up not needing to release him, but I think you're getting a guy who still has a lot of good years left in him. And that concludes my look at the center position for this offseason. Good options. Definitely some good options. Definitely some guys that I wouldn't mind targeting at all. Let me know what you guys think down below. Again, my favorite is Jason Kelce, but if we got one of the Rams guys, that would be nice. We know the Rams don't really have money. And if Mitch Morse shakes free because the Bills need to generate some cap space, then I think he would fit in quite well as well. Those would be my top guys. I have an eye on Jensen and Jones, but I don't know about the fit. I just don't know if that's a great fit. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know.